Assalamu alaikum and welcome to BOL Dialogues, a show where we ask the right questions from the right people. I'm your host and moderator for today, Dr. Uruba Ahmed. Today we delve into the topic of why invest in Pakistan, where we will discuss the risks and opportunities involved in investing in this region. Our distinguished guests today bring diverse expertise to our table. Our first guest for today, Mr. Chishty, CEO and Chairman of BOL Media Groups and Asia Park Investments, global founder of Spark Labs Global, is an experienced investor in early and mature state companies. Our second guest for today, Ms. Misbah Naqvi, co-founder and general partner at I2I Ventures, is known for her impactful contributions to the tech startup landscape in Pakistan. And our third guest for today, Mr. Shamoon Tariq, founder of Mahana Wealth and global partner at Tundra Founder, is recognized globally as one of the 3 most emerging investment managers in the world. Together, they'll discuss the risks and opportunities associated with investing in Pakistan and share their insights on navigating this dynamic market. My first question is for Mr. Chishty. With your diverse portfolio and years of experience, what inspired you to invest in Pakistan's broadcast media industry, considering the challenges it's facing? And how does the acquisition of BOL Media Group lead to opportunities for other investors also interested in the media sector?
I'm glad you asked that, Uruba. On the face of it, an investor who has spent a lifetime in financial services and technology, and then has been investing in Pakistan's infrastructure, for that person to suddenly acquire a media asset on the face of it, on the surface, makes no sense. But let me tear that apart. The fundamental belief we have when we look at Pakistan is that large elements of the Pakistan stack do not exist. So we have been investing for 10 years, and hopefully will invest for many decades more, in building the Pakistan stack out. So we think the Pakistan basic stack is about bijli, pani, gas, data, logistics, transport, a lot of the basic elements that you need to have as a country to progress. So the way we think about it, the basic stack is a bit like Pakistan's operating system or the iPhone. Once the iPhone existed, and the Apple Store existed, you could actually have apps, and apps could make money. But we think Pakistan doesn't have the basic level infrastructure. And we think media is an important part of that. And let me just, if you permit me just 30 more seconds, we think media is fundamentally changing. So the other guiding belief, or guiding principle we have is that different is better than better. So what we mean is, instead of building a faster horse or breeding a faster horse, we think it's about time to build cars, electric cars, helicopters. So when we look at broadcast TV, we think broadcast TV is dying. We think broadcast TV is dead in most countries and dying in every other country. But we do think the underlying assets are hugely valuable. So the underlying assets are about how content is produced, how content is created or produced, how content is disseminated, and how content is consumed. I'll just give you one example in each, and then we can move on. How is content created? It's being created by users. Everyone's a content creator. Gone are the days that you need to come to someone like me or come to BOL and produce your show and then get it on the air. Now everyone can be a content creator, and we want to be part of that. So we want to offer our stack of services to everyone, literally everyone in Pakistan, so they can be a content creator also. They can be famous, they can be rich, and we can help people do that. Then how is content disseminated? When I was a kid, we had one TV in our house. So we had one screen in our house, and I think it was black and white. But now, houses have multiple screens between phones, TVs, pads, computers. I mean, my nephew's refrigerator is a screen also. So content is disseminated in many hardware formats and software formats. So people are consuming content on social media, on YouTube. So we want to be part of that. We want to create content and be experts at disseminating content through all these platforms where consumption actually happens. And finally, how content is consumed. It's because of the disaggregation of demand and the opportunities created in media supply, we can micro-segment. So we can micro-segment users based on psychographic, demographic. So once again, I don't know the right answers. We're trying to figure it out. But we have these assets which come with BOL that we can play across the full value chain of media. Finally, we don't think of this as broadcast news or broadcast entertainment. We think of this as media technology.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chishty, in line with Pakistan's current FDI climate and the Belt and Road Initiative, can you briefly discuss the synergy between Asia Pac's involvement in BRI, and how does that impact and promote investments and connectivity in this region?
You know, the Belt and Road was a wonderful stimulus for Pakistan's economy. Belt and Road's objectives have been and continue being very similar to Asia Pac's, which is build the basic infrastructure that Pakistan needs. Pakistan has had an infrastructure deficit for several decades. So Belt and Road was designed to and succeeded in a few specific areas of focus, which was to have power. Pakistan needs more cheaper, more reliable power. So Belt and Road started doing that. We have been part of that. We have been part of those programs. Belt and Road was about creating a logistics network in Pakistan. We've been part of that. But we can't, as Pakistanis, we can't just wait for Belt and Road to do everything. And we won't just rely as a country on China. China has been a terrific partner, and inshallah we'll do more with China. But we have a similar program with Gulf states. So Pakistan, once again, that's way above my pay grade, but Pakistan has similar programs percolating with the Gulf states. I just came back from Saudi Arabia, where Asia Pac is working with large Saudi sovereign wealth and private investors on the energy space to bring renewable energy to Pakistan, especially to Karachi, to create bigger tech enterprises that link Saudi and Pakistan together. So I think, in summary, I would say the Belt and Road was a wonderful stimulus to bring capital and capability to Pakistan, something that we have lacked, specialized capability and lots of risk capital. But it's taught us. It's taught us certainly at Asia Pac, and it's taught our partners in Pakistan to replicate similar ventures with other countries as well.
Okay. We're all well aware that the country's current economic situation is the nation's favorite topic of discussion. Do you believe that Pakistan is standing on the brink of bankruptcy? And if not, what are the potential risks it might face in the future?
You know, I'm laughing not at you, but I'm laughing with you. As a media owner, I should love the sensationalism of, oh my God, Pakistan's going bankrupt. But as an investor who's been investing in Pakistan for over a decade, and we have, mashallah, met with some success, alhamdulillah, met with some success, Pakistan is not going bankrupt, Pakistan is not collapsing. It's a lazy argument that is not borne out by the facts. If you separate out equity and debt, on the equity side, if you look at publicly traded equities, Shamoon is much better placed on that, but we have fundamental reason to believe that Pakistan companies will continue generating earnings, and yeah, they just don't get valued the same way as, let's say, Indian corporate earnings do, but we can change that. But underneath, there's fundamentally strong earnings growth across sectors. Then if you look at equity investments in the private markets of venture capital, technology, and in private equity, those are by definition long duration investments, right? So those can be 5 to 10 year holding periods. And the nice thing about that holding period is you don't worry about the day-to-day volatility. So I don't spend any time worrying about the day-to-day volatility, because if I'm investing for 5 years for 10-year horizon, I keep my eye on the prize and just keep building towards that. So for me, for us at Asia Pac, volatility is great. That means people freak out and pull out, so we can buy assets from them, we can hire people from them, and we can steal business away from them. So we don't enjoy the volatility, but we take advantage of the volatility. So that's on the equity side. On the fixed income or bond side, I think there's just been too much uneducated commentary on that. Most of Pakistan's debt is rupee denominated. It's a closed system. Pakistan has a lot of control over that. Then we've got FX denominated debt. Most of it is in US dollars. Once again, Shamoon is a bigger expert than I am. But on the US dollar debt, most of it is bilateral, and that is not it. So the traded debt, our publicly traded debt, is actually a very small piece. And yeah, you can worry about the credit default spreads, but the credit default spread is a very thin market, and it's not an indicator of the health of the Pakistan economy. The reason you asked a question about FDI also, the reason the FDI has slowed down is not because Pakistan suddenly doesn't have opportunity. It's not that suddenly Pakistan doesn't have 250 million people. It's not that Pakistan doesn't have an emerging middle class. All those things are true, and as the base infrastructure keeps building out, people will create more apps on that, which are called businesses. The reason people are a little pulled back is people are worried about, justifiably so, about political uncertainty. I'm not going to comment on what the right answer should be. That is way, way, way above my pay grade and way outside my field of knowledge, but we need some certainty on what the political structure will be and who will be in charge. Second is people are concerned about dividend repatriation. That was driven by a foreign exchange shortage in Pakistan. That's being fixed. Most of the dividends are beginning to be repatriated. And finally, people want certainty on governance and the rules. And the SIFC, for example, specifically, has done an absolutely fantastic job of giving certainty as to how decisions will be made. So we continue to invest in Pakistan. Our biggest constraint right now is not ideas, is not deals. Alhamdulillah, it's not capital. It is just management talent. So the reason we haven't made 3 additional acquisitions this year is we just don't have enough top talent who we can put against these deals. One of the reasons, frankly, I came in as CEO of BOL as the investor is that we just couldn't find the right CEO. So if you know anyone who could be CEO of a media network, I'm hiring.
All right, thank you so much. Moving on to Ms. Naqvi. With your global experience in fintech, corporate finance, entrepreneurship, and impact investments, how has that shaped your view on Pakistan's current investment landscape?
Thank you, Ruba. I think, so throughout my finance career in the last 25 years, I've been on different sides of the table. And I think it helped me see perspectives from a different side. And so being with a large corporate bank, working with large multinationals, you get to see the top tier of businesses, whether it's corporates or Pakistani companies. Working in impact investment, you go into bastis and you look at mass market and you understand how do people, the majority of Pakistanis, make decisions about where their money goes. And then having worked as in a startup myself, you get to see the hustle, the jugaad, what is needed on the ground to actually make small businesses go from one step to the other. So I think for me, that perspective has helped me look at Pakistan in a very positive way because I see the potential. First of all, I see the need, and I see that there are gaps, and that means that there are opportunities. And so then you look at the potential of where we can actually get to as a country, as an economy. There's a lot that has been done in the last few years. There's a lot that is being done right now, and yet there's so much more that we can all do. So I think, I'll echo what Samir was saying earlier in terms of the opportunity to just build in Pakistan. And I think just because I've sort of personally had an opportunity to be on different sides of the table, I see that there is a lot of problems to solve. There are a lot of gaps in the market. But that also means that there is an open playing field for people that want to come and build in the country, want to address some of these large opportunities and build for Pakistani people and then build for outside as well. So I think definitely very bullish long term on Pakistan. I will echo what Samir was saying earlier. It's not about making a quick buck and moving out of the country. It's not about saying I'm going to invest today, acha kal dekha jayega, in 2 years I'm out. We are long-term investors, and so when you see several cycles come and go, you start realizing that with each cycle, there's maybe 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, but then you eventually get out of that cycle. And so even with Pakistan, we're very bullish on long term where this country is going to go and what all we can all build over here. So hence investing in companies that are super early stage, which are possibly much higher risk than later stage companies that are more established. But because we feel like we have this, this open green field in front of us and we want to take advantage of it.
Okay. Touching upon your last answer, with your involvement in I2I, Investor Innovate, in tech startups and market research, do you believe that Pakistan's current startup ecosystem makes it an attractive destination for foreign investors?
Yeah, if you had asked me the same question 2 years ago, I would have talked about how fast that market is growing. And literally between 2019 and 2022, 2021, Pakistani startups raised more than 5x year on year. And so there was a lot of attention coming into Pakistan. There were a lot of outside investors looking at Pakistan, but they were also mirroring a global trend where people were moving out of markets where interest rates were tighter, markets were tighter, and looking at alpha or an opportunity to make money in markets like ours. So for a while, markets like Pakistan and Pakistan were kind of the flavor of the month for a year or two. Since the economy globally has tightened, that has actually slowed down, and we're showing the same in our country. But at the same time, I do believe in the long-term startup potential of Pakistan. I think our ecosystem is very new. And so it does happen that 1 or 2 failures will come and everybody says, oh, this is going to end very soon, and why have you put in our money, and everyone's going to lose their money. Those are blips, and those happen in all markets. It's just that our market hasn't seen enough of those cycles for us to know that they will come and they will go. And so again, early stage venture investors understand that you invest in high risk, high return markets. So if you're taking certain risks, you're expecting certain return. And once we start seeing healthy exits in startups in Pakistan, once we start seeing investors that have come in today make good money in the next 5 to 6 years, I feel like that interest in Pakistan will get reignited. And at the same time, I think there is a need for Pakistani investors to step up, to bridge that gap where maybe international investors are not that bullish. But again, picking up on what Sameer was saying earlier, regional investors are continuing to look at Pakistan. We're looking at what's happening in MENA, for example, and with SIFC and a lot of commitments that are coming in. So I think to say that investors are as excited about Pakistan at an international level may not be fair. I think there has been a slowdown, but I don't think that that's indicative of where we're going and what's going to come in the next few years.
Mr. Chishty, would you like to add something?
Thank you for the opportunity. I wanted to just add up, so look at get a perspective from a different market. So I'm a general partner at Spark Labs, which is a global early stage venture capital fund. We have invested in over 500 startups. Let me just focus on China. So we started investing in Chinese early stage startups about 10 years ago, right? So I think we invested in 25 early stage tech companies in China. 20 of them are worth zero today. 20 of them just don't exist. It took them between 1 year and 5 years to go to zero. And that's how venture works. No matter how smart you are, no matter how well-meaning the entrepreneur is, no matter how hardworking he or she is, that's the whole point of venture. It's not corporate banking. It's venture capital. You should expect 90% of your investments to go to zero. So we were lucky only 20 went to zero. Of the other 5, I think 3 were we got our money back. On one, we made 66 times our money. And the other one, we made 35 times our money. So those 2 investments out of 25 paid for everything, right? So I think the disservice we do Pakistan is when we apply a corporate banking or a stock market view to venture, which is by nature, venture capital, when done right, and Misbah and Kulsum are doing it right, venture capital invests in businesses that should exist, but don't have access to capital. So Misbah and Kulsum and the other venture capitalists in Pakistan, they go find these entrepreneurs who are going to be overlooked by traditional capital sources and give them capital, give them support, give them advice. But they know full well that it is a tech startup in a space that doesn't exist. You know when I said different is better than better, but she's funding different. And no one understands different, but she took a risk and say, I'll bet on this different. But she knows up front, 9 out of 10, this may not work, right? But you still go do it. So it's the very risky part. And I think when Aruba says, you know, is venture capital, what does it mean for venture capital? Yeah, it means, yeah, we went through a normal cycle.
Okay.
We'll recover.
Thank you. Going back to Ms. Naqvi, could you tell us how startups contribute to providing financial access to undeserving, underserved communities, and how does that impact investment in financial services?
Sure. I think, so in our space, you know, we talk about fintechs, which are companies that are focused on finance using technology to scale and bring products, goods and services to the population. I think we know that there's a huge underserved population in Pakistan. Financial access is a huge issue at the moment. We've invested in several companies that are addressing this in different ways. I think the opportunity for startups, because they are nimble, because they're able to leverage a small amount of capital and provide scale, and go to places where maybe traditional banks would not go, where traditional financiers would not go, they have the ability to address certain needs of the market in a way that traditional banking may not. I think even in Pakistan, you know, given where interest rates are, a lot of banks focus on lending to the government, they focus on lending to large corporates. They're not interested necessarily in SMEs or looking at companies that are, you know, smaller in size or maybe working within a certain segment. And that's where startups can come in and focus on a certain vertical, a certain opportunity, and really provide those goods and services to consumers that don't have them yet. The other thing is, like, we all have smartphones in our hands. Pakistan's one of the markets with the highest smartphone penetration in the world and access to broadband. We have an opportunity where we can reach so many more people through that technology, similar to what Sameer was talking about in terms of media. We can provide financial services to those people through technology, and that's why fintechs can come in and really change the game in terms of how they are providing those underserved populations access to goods and services and financial services. So it could be something like payments, it could be access to loans, it could be access to a more efficient way of managing your money and depositing your money and earning on it. And we are seeing right now after COVID that a lot of people started becoming a little bit more comfortable with online payments, whereas they weren't earlier on. Sure. And that is something where I think, right, as much as the government is taking initiatives to push on fintechs, push on financial inclusion, you need that enabling environment, and that's where the push comes from the government. And at the same time, you have a pull that comes from the customers. And I feel like once consumers start getting more comfortable with not having to deal with cash, with becoming more comfortable with electronic payments, there will be more and more demand for these kind of services. And so that pull will come from those consumers. And so I think we're at a very interesting inflection point in Pakistan where you look at the population and you look at, again, I was talking about opportunity earlier, how much can be done through these kind of businesses that can go in, use technology and access populations that otherwise may not feel comfortable going to a bank branch and opening a bank account. They can now transact on their phone and actually have access to that finance.
Thank you, Ms. Naqvi. Moving on to Mr. Tariq. With your experience in equity research and portfolio management, what factors do you think make Pakistan an appealing investment hub, but then also some warning signs you might want to highlight for the investors?
Thank you. Well, it depends which Shamoon do you ask, Shamoon who's Pakistani or Shamoon who's a global investor. As a global investor, you should not. Given the way we have screwed up the policy making and inconsistent policies all across, we have to actually fix that first before we actually acquire investing. So I've been investing in global emerging markets for the last 15 years, and I've seen the evolution of almost all the early emerging markets like Bangladesh, Vietnam, even Nigeria. And as I tell people, when I first visited Vietnam back in 2013, I went back to Stockholm and I said, like, Pakistan's here, Vietnam is here. But today Vietnam is here and Pakistan is actually nowhere. So as a global investor, no. A flip side of that obviously is that obviously I've been a capital market. If I was an FDI investor, I would have a second thought. We need to understand as a global investor that there are 190 plus countries in the world, and Pakistan is just a tiny piece of it. So you can't sell 250 million population anymore. You have to sell tangible steps. So even over my last 12 years, we have brought almost all the sovereign funds into the country, and I've never seen anyone saying no to investing into Pakistan. Because and we coined a term called perception arbitrage. So people outside, they thought Pakistan is some sort of Afghanistan, but when they came here, they saw the infrastructure, they saw the management quality, educated people like all of us, and everyone got invested. We brought 3 sovereign funds, and now I can name it because I'm not part of that anymore. So the Government of Singapore Fund, which was the largest investor in the capital markets in 2008, a Norwegian oil fund, and just before this crisis, Saudi sovereign fund as well. They all wanted to invest, but at the end, our policies and stuff that led to no investing. But from the factual perspective, I think Pakistan is one of the cheapest market right now. Opportunities are everywhere. Like for example, yesterday we hit all-time high in the stock exchange of 53,000, and last it was in 2017. But by no means that's a true reflection of Pakistani market, because in 2017 the price-earning ratio, which is like our financial terminology, how to gauge the performance, it was 12, and now it's 4. So actually, it should be 150,000 if we have to go back to 2017. So just for a layman perspective, I think same asset, like same sofa, in India is priced 30 rupees, and in Pakistan it's priced 4 rupees. So that's kind of an arbitrage that we are talking about. But with all the pessimism, I'd still say we don't need, as a global investor, we don't need this price to go to 30. We just, even if it goes to 8, we make 100%. So in a nutshell, I'd say if someone wants to make money in anywhere in the world, I guess Pakistan definitely provides the best opportunity as of now, and that's why they should invest. But if you want to invest long term, I think we need a bit more on that.
All right, thank you. As an investment manager well-versed in corporate finance and asset management, how do companies like Mahana guide their clients on investing in Pakistan? And are our foreign investors achieving their goals?
Okay, so I have to give a brief.
Mike.
Hello. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the concept of Mahana, I would like to take you back to that. So in COVID times, like I've been living in Stockholm, Sweden, and there we saw 2 minutes account opening, 99% financial literacy. So we used to invest Swedish pension money, almost around $700 million in 20 markets. So I was one of the largest foreign investors in Pakistan. Till 2017, we had $250 million invested in the real capital markets. And we actually made a lot of money in Pakistan. And while living abroad, you see how pensions work, how savings work, how brokerage accounts work, and everything. It's so easy. And so after COVID time, I went back to my partners and said, like, maybe we should do something in Pakistan. So the partners of Tundra and IGI Packages Groups with Syed Babar Ali, we decided to do something about that. So we don't call ourselves a startup. We are not. We are very much profitable, and we are doing what we wanted to achieve. We aren't live yet, but the purpose of this was to actually bring the financial money that sits in the banking system from the people and ends up in the government treasury. So we wanted to cut down that intermediaries and link directly the consumer and the government. It serves a lot of purposes, but first of all, obviously, banks, they don't pay much, and they end up like charging government 22, 23%. So with all the crises in last 1 year, everyone's struggling. but it's only banks who made the largest profit this year. So it's a bit of a financial inclusion, but we also understand technology as well. So $700 million we managed by 7 people. So we had 3 offices around the world. So Stockholm, Karachi, Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. So we managed $700 million with just 7 people using technology. And for the last 7 years, we have been the world's best performing fund managers, according to Citywire and Morningstar. So somehow we wanted to replicate that in Pakistan. And I think if we are successful, I think that should make government happy in terms of the interest rates coming down, people happy in terms of making more money on their savings, and obviously providing that technological infrastructure that we have seen globally that right now does not exist in Pakistan.
Okay, thank you. One last question. How do you see the role of investment management in promoting Pakistan's current investment atmosphere? And do you have any parting advice for any foreign investors watching this?
Well, that's a tricky question. So I don't know what to say because I don't want to lie, and at the same time, but I'll say I think as a foreign investor, again, there are 2 versions to that. We should invest in Pakistan regardless, because you cannot, like Pakistan is no Iraq or Nigeria. We are 250 million population, and we cannot be wiped out. Prices are so cheap, management quality, educated people are here, infrastructure exists, and now today the infrastructure that we saw, we realize that it's actually too much. The only thing that we need is consistency in policies by the government, and once and for all, and move away from the rent-seeking business to actually promoting that. So my advice to foreign investors, so we are still invested in Pakistan, we still continue to make money in Pakistan, and so anyone in the capital markets, at least they should definitely invest in Pakistan. The only challenge obviously we face is Pakistan has over the period become boom and bust market. Like you come, make money and go back. I think that is a cycle that we need to break, where if the money is here, it stays for the next 15, 20, 30 years, so that they also enjoy that profitability and so forth. And from the capital markets, it should trickle down to the foreign direct investment and so forth.
Okay, thank you so much. That wraps up my questions. The floor is open if the audience have any.
Yeah, thank you. This is Johar Ali, Vice Chancellor, UIT University. I heard the last part was consistent policies, but I think at the moment the policies has to evolve and more into enabling policies or enabling environment. What do you think about that? Thank you.
Who is the question for, sir?
For anyone?
Mr. Tariq, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I guess I totally agree with you. And obviously, enabling policies is the first step, and the consistency comes after that. Actually, when you look at the Companies Act and the Constitution and at the like all the policies for power sector, for different sector, policies are there. I guess the real problem in Pakistan is the implementation of it. So enabling policies, yes. If like as of now, if you ask me if anywhere where policy is needed, that's on the use of technology, on the AI and machine learning. You have no idea that where world is heading. We are 250 million population, and with the use of technology, there will be new roles created, obviously, but there would many roles be going out. But on the other side, I think there are policies, there are very clear frameworks available. The previous generation has done a decent job. I won't say that bad. I guess it's just this era where we have decided not to implement on those policies. So no one asked us, like for example, we brought in CPEC in 2014, and I met the China Harbor's deputy CEO, and he told me, Shamoon, we want to invest in every sector of Pakistan, food, textile, cement, electricity, everything. They ended up buying few. So they got Masood Textile, they got they did a DD on Fuji Foods, they did a Century Paper, They also bid for Karachi Electric, but ultimately nothing happened. So we brought them over a certain return that this is what you will be given. And 3 years or 4 years down with the new government, we went back to them and we said, okay, we can't honor the previous commitment. And they went back. So we didn't see any progress. So we now have those power plants. We can use that electricity. And now we are asking for more FDI. So for example, if I'm a $1 billion investor, do you have any asset that I can invest $1 billion right now? Nothing. So yeah, enabling policies definitely, but I think just implementation of the policy and stick to it. It doesn't matter whose government that is. Just stick to it. You have made a commitment to foreign investors. And if only we fix that, just from my own experience, I think maybe 20, 30, $40 billion into FDI would not be an issue. The world is flushed with liquidities, looking for opportunities. We have to make ourselves attractive enough.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I had one question. Sorry. Misbah, this is for you. It's a two-part question. First, you talked about fintechs, the fintech ecosystem. What do you think is lacking in the current fintech system within Pakistan I'm speaking about? And the second part, you talked about how the uptake of digital transaction has increased post-COVID. Do you think the 5 digital banks which are going to be coming in, which State Bank has just allowed pilot, do you think that will maybe bridge this gap further? Do you think people will be, considering we have less than about 20% of our population is banked, how do you see digital banks fulfilling that need?
Sure, thank you. What was the first part of the question?
The first part is, what do you think is missing within the current fintech ecosystem?
Right. So I think, look, in Pakistan, the fintech ecosystem is thriving quite well. I think the State Bank has taken some good initiatives. It has been a pretty supportive central bank compared to a number of other central banks, and has been relatively consistent in its policies versus some of the other areas we've seen. So I think what's been great is that, you know, with EMI licensing coming in, electronic money institutions, with now digital banks licensing coming in, the government is, the State Bank has been looking to address all of these pockets of where is the opportunity coming in terms of how to reach more consumers through digital means. I think now that we have around more than 8 EMI licenses out there as well. Of course, banking licenses are there. Then you have the payment service operators and PSO, PSP licenses, which manage payments. And then you have electronic money institutions, which have their own mandate. The government has also clarified regulations between microfinance banks and microfinance institutions and given them quite a bit of room to actually expand their services. So I think if you talk about from a regulatory front, I wouldn't say that there are major gaps over there right now where maybe you'll wave a magic wand and suddenly everything will start thriving. So I think a lot of that regulatory ecosystem is already present and it's already there. I think this kind of comes to the second question as well, but when you talk about gaps and opportunities, I think the fintechs have come in and been able to tap into a lot of areas which banks have traditionally ignored. And that's something we're going to continue to see more of. I think electronic payments and removing cash from the system is a big opportunity. We've only scratched the surface. There I do feel there is a need to have more enabling policies in terms of maybe tax breaks given to merchants that are allowing electronic POS machines and helping people. You know, Pakistan mein to ye hota hai ki baji discount milega agar aap cash pay karenge, right? Whereas in most countries it's the other way around. Cash is expensive. So we have a gap there and we will get there. But I think one thing that I can say is that from a policy perspective, that is an opportunity that still has not been implemented. Of course, on the other hand, we have issues around tax collection, and so I think anything which says reduce taxes is not a popular move right now. So I'm quite well aware that that's the scenario we're in. But at the same time, I think this will only continue to grow, and we're already on that path. I think when it comes to digital banks, definitely another great move from the government. We do need to see this playing out a little bit more. I think it's going to be at least 6 to 8 months, if not a year, before most of them come online, and then they will build from there. To again, there's not a magic wand that you suddenly say, we've issued 5 licenses, and tomorrow 70% of people in Pakistan that don't have banking access will suddenly be financial. So there's an education piece that goes along with it. I think fintechs are coming up, and again, first movers often have a responsibility to help people learn. I mean, we've invested in a company called SafePay, which is electronifying payments for merchants. There's a huge angle of education that needs to be put forward when you're helping merchants understand why should you not do cash on delivery if you're an e-commerce merchant? Why is taking electronic payments better for you as a merchant? So that angle, I think we need to do more, and that's for the whole ecosystem, whether it's investors or the government, regulators, or even ecosystem builders, and then of course the players themselves. And I think the last thing I would say over here is that we need to make things easier for the consumer. At the end of the day, there is no reason why a consumer will not opt for a more efficient product, a better service, better customer service, and saving money. They just need to understand how to do it, and we need to provide those goods and services to them. And then fintech is the same as any other market over there. So I think big opportunity. As investors, we're very bullish on fintech as an investor. Right now, 5 out of our 14 companies that we've invested in are in the fintech space. They are lending. They're lending to SMEs. They're lending to individuals. They're looking at earned wage access, payments, financial management. So that just goes to show that we actually, as investors, do believe that this is a big opportunity that Pakistan has.
I think we have room for one more question.
My name is Samir Hudboy. I always question why there is so much initiative or so much discussion on the service sector, and why in Pakistan the manufacturing sector has been ignored altogether in terms of investment. The manufacturing sector and the technology sector, there are two areas which have a great need. In the manufacturing sector, you need cheap energy. Okay? For cheap energy, we have two major sources, solar and hydrokinetic, which need to be exploited. You need investment. I think aapne bole ke billion-dollar investments, you can't see an area of billion-dollar investments. Certainly you have billion-dollar investments in the energy sector, especially for solar and for wind and for hydrokinetic. Hydrokinetic in the mountains. There's a potential of more than 40 gigawatts, 40,000 megawatts from the streams of northern Pakistan. And the same way with solar energy. That's one area, because I know that we have shortage of time. One area. The second area, which I think is looming and it's waiting to be picked up in the technology center, and that is the biosciences. That's gene editing, genetic engineering, give it different names, synthetic biology. This is the future. You cannot imagine what, along with AI and synthetic biology and genetic engineering, what the world is going to be another 5 years, 10 years from now. So we need to invest in both these areas. On the second part of bioengineering or biosciences or genetic engineering, whatever you want to call it, you need to start with the educational sector. Our Vice Chancellor, Usman Institute of Technology, Dr. Johar Ali, he asked you this question in the beginning. That is an area which in Pakistan has been ignored by our educationalists and by our investors. You put in a little bit, just invest. You talked about 35 times and 65 times, Samir, you mentioned that. There were two industries that gave you 35 times and 65 times. I'm almost sure that you would get 100 times and more. But so these are two areas, please don't ignore them. Anybody, an outside investor, local investor, you're going to have gold mines and diamond mines in these two sectors.
Just a brief comment. I've enjoyed coming over here and what you offered in terms of friendship and your facilities. That we've set up a Concerned Citizens Alliance in Karachi, which has about 20-25 organizations. Samir and Johar Sahab are all part of that. And we say that as if we cannot get the political parties to do what we want them to do, then as citizens we must assert ourselves and come out with solutions. Karachi has all the know-how in not just identifying, but providing solutions on every subject, whether it's economics, technology, law, health, transport, infrastructure, you name it. And we've made so many 10 or 12 committees in which we have assigned people the job in a month's time to identify the problem and suggest solutions. So it is also time that we raise our voice, just not criticize, because we're a nation of critics, but tell governments, we have no problem in interacting with governments, federal, provincial or local, but we have to agitate for solutions. So when you've offered us this facility, I would offer through your good offices, all those who would like to join and contribute in the Citizens Alliance, it would be open to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have another question?
Munib.
I see a hand raised.
So I'm trying to understand, there's obviously a lot of capital in the world that is waiting it out, right? Understood. But there's actually a lot of capital in Pakistan which can't find a path. पहले real estate में था cash, 40% आपकी currency cash में, वो real estate में जब returns नहीं आने में तो काफ़ी सारे लोग बैठ गए हैं cash पे, वो real estate पे, और कुछ लोग जो उधर से निकाल पाए पैसे उन्होंने हुंडी करने शुरू कर दिए पैसे दुबई की प्रॉपर्टीज़ में, क्योंकि वहाँ डॉलराइज रिटर्न मिल रहा था. अब हुकूमत जितनी भी कोशिश कर रही है कि जी वो पैसे हुकूमत को वापस मिले कर्ज़ों के through the banks, and that's why they're asking all of us to essentially put our money into the banks. At the end of the day, this will also, the music will stop here as well, because it's not affordable. 60% of your debt is actually domestic, and you're exploding that by keeping these interest rates so high. I guess my question is, where do you see and how do you see capital going into businesses? Because clearly fintechs have not been able to crack the junk bond, securitization. So we see and hear a lot about this fintech, but none of that money is really making it to businesses.
Would Mr. Tariq like to answer?
You can also add on. I guess your first part was more about the money flowing in to the country where it should come, right? Yeah. Got it.
There's a lot of cash here, but there is no avenue to put it.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Well, first of all, I guess we have to understand the nature of money. Money goes where it's secure, and money goes where it grows faster than other areas. And obviously, Pakistan being a rent-seeking economy, when the government treasuries are giving you 23%, why would you invest in a manufacturing facility making 2% or 3%? I was speaking to the other guy last week, and he said, like, I do import-export business, and he was like, okay, what exactly do you? I import tomatoes. I said, like, even tomatoes we don't produce here? And he said, yeah, so container is 7 million, and I make 2 million on top of that. So if on a trading business I'm making a margin of 30-35%, why would we end up in the manufacturing business? So you're absolutely right. Market is flushed with liquidity. The issue is no one is, in my personal opinion, I might be wrong, but I've seen people enjoying trading businesses, rent-seeking businesses, making quick bucks, and not focusing on the real economy. That's why we always, as soon as economy goes up, 5%, 6%, we blow up. Our current account just blows up. So I actually don't see money going anywhere in this country. That's why I said, we are flushed with liquidity, but we don't have the avenues. So we can single out the problems, but someone has to take that initiative. The guy mentioned about biosciences. If you have any company in biosciences who actually know how things are done, I personally would be happy to invest in that company. But like, you have to bring that company to me. You have to bring that avenue to me. So unless we make those safe havens out of sight from local or foreign investors, I don't see money actually flowing anywhere. And even if you look at the Pakistan Stock Exchange, for example, 600 companies, 90% of them are government protected, rent seeking. banks, power sector, media, foods, fertilizers. You name the sector and it's protected by the government. So government keeps printing money and they keep supporting those businesses. And that's why I guess the adoption of a real economy efforts is not that great. And unless we fix that, I don't see that happening. The second part of your fintech part, why it has not been able to, I have obviously we are also a fintech. I actually believe, and I can totally wrong, I think many of the companies here, they're not investing in the technology itself. On the wrapper, it's a digital account, but behind, it's not. And I can give you a lot of examples of here. So first is technology, and I guess second is the trust. We need to understand, like Pakistan as a society, we don't trust people that easy. So most of the fintechs that are in here, unless they are backed by some local groups, and they also put their trust backing behind those fintechs, we might see very slow adoption of those. But like if you have real technology, trust, and a clear solution, I think adoption would be much higher.
I think Ms. Naqvi would like to also answer the second part of that question.
Yes. Were you about to say something? I mean, I agree with you, Muneeb. Unfortunately,
there's no avenue, right? लेकिन fintechs तो technically अगर आपने कर्जे देने हैं तो आप तो किसी को भी कर्जा दे सकते हो, right? Why bank the unbanked? Forget the unbanked, right? Like there are all these businesses that actually need money, but somehow the fintechs haven't been able to even capture securitization.
Yeah. So I think to the first point, I mean, in terms of we are flush with cash, but a lot of that is undocumented, and so partly to what Shamoon was saying earlier. People don't want to invest in businesses where they're going to get documented, and that's a huge other problem that's kind of hanging over our heads in terms of the way the tax structure is, the way people are actually, you don't want to put money in a company where then you're going to get returns on that investment, or you have to show where that money came from. You'd rather put it in real estate where half of it is happening on a file, some of it is happening off the record, and then part of it is being declared. So that is essentially a big problem. I think as far as local capital coming into startups, at least from that perspective, I can say that, that's my area that I do understand. I think there is some interest, but there's also hesitation because a lot of people don't typically understand how startups work, how startup capitalization tables work. And if you're coming from a traditional mindset where you want to control the business, you may not be comfortable only having 2% or 5% or 10% of a company because you feel like you're going to be taking a step back. So there is a larger mindset change that, that needs to happen at a broader level. Coming to fintech specifically and fundraising, I mean, as an investor in fintechs, I don't want my fintechs investing in anybody and lending to anybody that comes off the street. I want them to have some kind of credit analysis. I want them to understand if they're investing in a business, what is the likelihood of them getting that money back? I'm not encouraging them to say, go and give loans to if anybody that sets up an app and asks for a loan. That's happening. That has happened in Pakistan with quite dire consequences, as we've seen a few months ago as well. So, at least from an investor's perspective, I can say that I want my investees to then lend responsibly. So yes, there are opportunities to then have them raise funding for what they're doing. Abhi, as you may know, issued a bond. There's a local sukuk that was issued for 2 billion rupees, oversubscribed. There is demand for those kind of instruments as well, and I think more and more startups are going to start looking at that, or at least fintechs. But I don't think it's fair to say just give money to everybody because everybody needs money. There's always going to be demand for money, especially when markets are tight, like right now where the economy is in a bit of a slump. Demand is there. Demand is far outstripping the supply of capital for SMEs or even individuals. So I do think you need prudent investing over there. I do think you need to, and that's where the more people you bring into the tax net, the more people you bring into the documented sector, the more you will be able to start looking at credit histories and then do responsible lending. Or even at a business level, you're lending to a Karyana store. If half of 70% of his transactions are off the books, how, as a lender, are you able to determine that that's a good business to lend to versus the guy next door who, you know, has a different proportion of money off the book? So it's a complex challenge, and I don't think there's any, you know, silver bullet to sort of answer that. But yeah, that's kind of my
Mr. Chishty, would you like to add something to that?
I was gonna. I know we're out of time, but I was gonna use some of these questions to set up the sequel for BOL Dialogue, if you don't mind. So BOL Dialogues. First of all, thank you for hosting your event at BOL. Thank you for using our home. Please come back anytime. BOL Dialogues is a series. This is the first. So thank you for leading the experiment. Is a series of dialogues, so not debates, they're dialogues to help find solutions, collaboratively find solutions, dialoguing with people who are experts, academics, and practitioners. Today obviously was practitioners. The idea is to have, originally we thought we'd do 10 of these over the course of November. Now it looks like we'll do like 100 of these, because we have a list of questions we want to go through over the period of time. In this studio, we have a similar studio in Lahore, we have a similar studio in Islamabad, so we can do it just about, not anywhere, but in 3 major cities of Pakistan. Today, I don't have the answers to the questions Muneeb and Dr. Hoodboy and others asked, but we have some questions we want to engage you with. And I would love for some of the people in the audience to take part in panels, in fact, to be panelists. And as a proud Harvard alum, I'd like to see more Harvard alums be on panels. Today, we had 1 out of 3. Either we get these guys Harvard degrees, which is a good idea, or we get you guys on the panel. For example, there's some very thought-provoking questions here which merit debate. One, what is the next wave of sophistication that we need to bring into capital markets in a risk-managed way that we can create more vehicles for people to participate in the growth of Pakistan? Second, we have all these companies that generate profits, right? But why don't we have regional beaters? Why don't we have regional leaders? Every country that has locally competitive companies creates regional leaders, right? That's an anomaly. Third, what happened to hard technologies? What happened to hard sciences, right? In the 60s, Pakistan had engineering firms, had manufacturing, and then we just stopped doing that. So the opportunities in bioscience, for example, if we have people in bioscience, a super competitive area where there's fundamental competitive advantage developed through science, well, why aren't we? What is the reason why we're not doing that? How do we fix that? So these are just 3. We've got about, I guess now we have about 15 more questions. Today's question was, why invest in Pakistan? The idea wasn't to get to an answer, but to begin the discussion and have subsequent discussions that inform the discussion, the dialogue, and to create partnerships around it. So I just want to, on behalf of BOL, I want to thank you for taking part today. We will look out for more invitations. If it's okay with you guys, we'll keep you on the mailing list. Please come back online or come back in person. Many of you will be called by Shahzeb. Many of you will be called to be a panelist. And if some of you want to be a moderator, I'm sure Aruba could use the support. So thank you very much. Thank you for taking part today.
Thank you. Thank you. With that, we conclude our session on why invest in Pakistan, where our panelists for today have very graciously highlighted the risks and challenges involved. We thank them for kindly answering our questions. We thank our audience for being so kind and attentive, and we thank our viewers for joining us. I hope you all enjoyed this, benefited from it, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.